Gaming on mobile is no longer casual. It's powerful, competitive, and incredibly immersive, especially when paired with a controller. In this video, I'll show you the top 100 best controller support games on Android and iOS, covering every genre you can imagine. If you love discovering the best mobile experiences, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for future content. Ready to upgrade your gameplay? Let's begin! Let's kick off our list with game number 100, Tomb Raider. I've played this on controller, and honestly, it feels like a full console adventure in my hands. Between the exploration, firefights, puzzles, and challenge tombs, it never feels watered down. The fact it supports touch, keyboard, or gamepad makes it insanely flexible. Up next, we have Where Winds Meet. And wow, this one surprised me. It drops you into 10th century China as a young swordmaster chasing lost truths about your identity. The open world feels poetic and dangerous at the same time, and with a controller, those wuxia duels feel cinematic and precise. Game number 98 is Hitman World of Assassination. I love sandbox stealth games, and this one's stacked with massive locations from Paris to Italy. The free training missions alone hooked me, but with 100 plus hours of content total, it's the kind of game I keep coming back to just to experiment. Right after that is Sonic Rumble, which flips the tone completely. Instead of stealth, it's chaotic multiplayer survival madness with up to 32 players. I tried it with friends using controllers, and man, it felt like a party console game disguised as mobile. Pure fun, zero stress. Coming in at 96, Oceanhorn 3 already has my attention before release. Set 1,000 years after the last game, you sail the Shadow Sea with a techno-pirate crew hunting a lost god. If it plays half as good as it sounds with a controller, this could be a massive adventure worth waiting for. Next up, the Division Resurgence brings MMO-style shooting to mobile, and honestly, it feels ambitious. Exploring a post-crisis New York with RPG progression and co-op firefights gives it serious depth. With a controller, the gunplay feels tight enough that I sometimes forget I'm playing on a phone. Game 94 is Planet of Lana, and this one's a vibe. It's a cinematic puzzle adventure where you travel with a loyal creature through painterly sci-fi landscapes. It's slower and thoughtful compared to the last game, but with a controller, platforming and stealth feel incredibly smooth and immersive. Up next, NBA 2K26. I'm not always into sports titles, but building a roster of legends and jumping into matches anywhere is addictive. Controller support really helps with precision plays, and collecting players from different eras adds that satisfying team builder grind. At number 92, Way of the Hunter Wild Europe is a totally different pace. This is for players who like immersion over action. Tracking animals across Transylvania's mountains and forests feels incredibly realistic, and using a controller makes aiming and movement feel way more natural. Next is Bendy and the Dark Revival, and yeah, this one's creepy. Exploring a twisted animation studio while avoiding the ink demon kept me on edge the whole time. The controller setup makes movement and combat smoother, which somehow makes the horror even more intense. Game number 90 is Warframe. This is one of those games I always recommend because it's free, story-driven, and packed with action. Playing as a space ninja with friends never gets old, and with a controller, the movement and combat flow feels fast, fluid, and seriously satisfying. Coming in at 89, Bully Anniversary Edition is pure nostalgia for me. Playing as Jimmy Hopkins causing chaos at Bulworth Academy still feels hilarious years later. The controller support makes fights and minigames way more responsive, which honestly makes this version my favorite way to play it. Up next, Highway Racer Pro switches gears into pure speed. This is all about weaving through traffic at insane velocity, and with a controller, steering feels precise instead of slippery. It's simple, intense, and perfect when I just want quick adrenaline without a huge time commitment. At 87, SpongeBob. Patty Pursuit 2 is way more fun than I expected. It's a colorful platformer packed with secrets, puzzles, and familiar characters. Using a controller makes jumping and dodging feel super tight, which really helps when levels start throwing chaos at you. Next, we've got Duet Night Abyss, and this one stands out instantly. The dual perspective demon story mixed with 3D combat and multiple weapon loadouts gives it real depth. With a controller, switching weapons and chaining attacks feels smooth and stylish instead of overwhelming. Game number 85 is Outliver Tribulation, and I respect how bold it is. Mixing survival horror, Souls-like combat, and African mythology creates a dark, unique atmosphere. The controller really helps with timing dodges and attacks, which you'll definitely need to survive this nightmare realm. Up next, Maneater lets you play as a shark, and yes, it's as wild as it sounds. Exploring an open world while literally eating your way up the food chain is oddly satisfying. With a controller, swimming and attacking feel fluid, which makes the chaos way more fun. At number 83, Wall of Insanity 2 dives back into horror, but this time with third-person action. Investigating a lost squad in a decaying dimension feels intense and eerie. Controller aiming and movement make combat smoother, which is crucial when the game throws nightmares at you. Next is Ninja Party, and this one's just pure multiplayer fun. Competing in parkour challenges against other players keeps matches unpredictable. I like it because it doesn't take itself too seriously, and with a controller, movement feels snappy enough to actually pull off cool tricks. Game 81 is Blasphemous, and man, this game is brutal. In a good way. It's a dark gothic action platformer with tough combat and deep exploration. Using a controller makes every slash and dodge feel precise, which you absolutely need if you want to survive this unforgiving world. Up next, Oniro. Blends classic hack and slash energy with modern design. I love how it mixes gothic ruins with Eastern mysticism. It gives the world a distinct personality. Combat feels fast and weighty on controller, and the class customization adds real replay value. At 79, Snufkin Melody of Moominvalley slows things down beautifully. It's a musical story adventure about restoring nature and helping quirky characters. After so many action titles, this felt refreshing. Controller movement is gentle and precise, matching the peaceful tone perfectly. Next up, World War Legion. Jump straight back into action. This is fast-paced World War II multiplayer shooting, and performance is surprisingly smooth. With a controller, aiming feels accurate and competitive, which really matters when you're trying to keep up with skilled players online. Game number 77 is Chants of Sennaar, and this one's seriously unique. It's a puzzle adventure built around decoding languages and glyphs. I love how it makes you think instead of react. Using a controller keeps navigation comfortable while your brain handles the hard part. Coming in at 76, Gran Velocita is for true sim racing fans. We're talking tire wear, brake fade, aero balance, the works. With a controller, handling feels realistic and technical, like you're actually managing a race car instead of just steering an arcade vehicle. Up next, we have Greak, Memories of Azur. Is a gorgeous hand-drawn puzzle platformer where you control 3 siblings. Switching between them to solve puzzles feels clever and satisfying. Controller support really helps coordinate their abilities smoothly, especially in tricky sections. Game number 74 is Crystal of Atlan. Instantly grabbed me with its aerial combat focus. Most RPGs stick to flat movement, but this one actually uses vertical space in fights. On controller, juggling enemies mid-air feels stylish and smooth, and honestly, pulling off combos never gets old. Up next, OWRC Police delivers a massive open world and legit pursuit mechanics. I like how it mixes realism with action, interceptions, tactical stops, all of it. With a controller, steering precision makes high-speed chases feel intense instead of chaotic. Game number 72 is Enter the Gungeon, and yeah, it's wild. Dodging bullets, flipping tables, and blasting enemies is non-stop chaos in the best way. Controller play is honestly the best way to handle the madness because accuracy and movement really matter here. Right after that, Dadish 4 keeps things light and fun. It's a classic platformer packed with tricky levels and goofy food enemies. I like how simple it looks, but still challenges your timing. Controller support makes jumps precise, which is clutch in later stages. At number 70, Torreroa is perfect if you like teamwork. You explore dungeons with up to 3 players, grab treasure, and escape through portals. I enjoy how fast sessions feel, and with the controller, coordinating movement and combat with friends feels tight and responsive. Next up, Dune Barrens. Slows everything down in a good way. It's a peaceful desert exploration game with no pressure, just wandering and soaking in the scenery. Using a controller makes movement relaxing and smooth, which fits the calm vibe perfectly. Coming in at 68, Cygram. Throws you into high-speed space races with wild jumps near planets and black holes. It's flashy and intense, and I love how the controller helps with tight turns. It feels more like piloting than steering, which is awesome. Up next, Cat Quest 3 is just pure charm. A pirate-themed open world full of puns, treasure hunts, and action combat sounds silly, but it works. Controller combat feels snappy, and sailing around the Caribbean actually feels adventurous instead of gimmicky. Game 66 is Punch TV, and this one surprised me. It focuses purely on combat without distractions, whether solo or multiplayer. Controller controls make combos and counters feel clean, which is important when fights get intense. Next, Warm Snow brings dark fantasy roguelike action with fast combat and a cool lore backdrop. I like how every run feels different, and with a controller, movement and attacks flow together smoothly. It's challenging, but in that addictive one more run way. At 64, Soul Huntress mixes melee, ranged weapons, and magic with procedural dungeons. I enjoy experimenting with builds, especially before boss fights. Controller support really helps with switching weapons fast, which can honestly save your run. Up next, Vohin is a Metroidvania adventure that feels built for mobile but plays like a console indie. Exploring the mysterious island and uncovering secrets is super satisfying. Controller movement makes platforming precise, which is huge for exploration games like this. Game number 62 is Countless Army, a strategy game where you conquer regions and customize troops. I like how flexible the unit upgrades are. Using a controller actually makes navigation smoother, especially when managing multiple squads. Next, Starward-Mecha Girls blends anime-style characters with full 3D arena combat. Matches feel fast and flashy, especially in 2 vs 2 mode. Controller inputs make combos and aerial moves easier to pull off, which really helps when fights get hectic. At number 60, Heroes of Mount Dragon lets you transform into dragons mid-battle, which is honestly awesome. Each hero has a unique fighting style, and controller support makes switching forms and attacks feel fluid instead of clunky. Up next, Bloodline blends twin-stick shooting with RPG customization in a sci-fi setting. I like experimenting with the 4 rebel classes. Controller aiming feels accurate, which is crucial when missions start throwing waves of enemies at you. Game 58 is Thronefall, and I love its simplicity. You build your base by day and defend it at night. It strips strategy down to the essentials, and with a controller, switching between building and combat feels surprisingly natural. Next, Blade and Soul Heroes mixes real-time action with turn-based tactics, which sounds odd but actually works. Managing a 5-hero team adds depth, and controller controls make switching targets and abilities feel smoother. At 56, Road Champions is all about precision racing. I like the time trial mode because it really tests your skill. With a controller, drifting and cornering feel much more controlled, which makes shaving seconds off your lap genuinely satisfying. Up next, Mind Cop is a detective story where time is your biggest enemy. Every action costs hours, so choices matter. I love how tense investigations feel, and using a controller keeps navigation smooth while you focus on solving the case. Game number 54 is Passive Master, and it's a cool twist on RPGs because everything triggers automatically. Instead of button mashing, it's all strategy and probability. It's oddly satisfying watching builds work, especially when played comfortably with a controller. Next, Platyguard throws you into a biopunk wasteland full of mutants and chaos. I like how fast runs feel and how different each attempt is. Controller controls make movement and attack sharper, which really helps in tight fights. At 52, Night Slashers Remake delivers classic horror beat-em-up action. Smashing through monsters with friends feels old school in the best way. With a controller, combos land cleanly, which makes every fight feel satisfying. Up next, Bridge Constructor Studio is for creative minds. Building stable or totally ridiculous bridges never gets boring. I like experimenting with weird designs, and controller input actually makes building feel smoother than touch sometimes. Game number 50 is Rift Busters. Drops you into alien blasting chaos where you seal dimensional rifts with allies. It's loud, fast, and fun. With a controller, aiming and movement feel tight, which is exactly what you want in a co-op shooter. Up next, we have Darkest Days. This one hooked me with its seamless open world and gritty zombie atmosphere. Exploring from desert towns to snowy islands feels immersive, and with a controller, combat and movement feel tight enough to keep survival intense. Up next, Rocket Goal blends cars and soccer into pure competitive chaos. Boosting, drifting, and smashing into shots feels awesome, especially with a controller where steering and timing actually feel skill-based instead of random. Game 47 is Inmost, and this one's all about atmosphere. It's dark, emotional, and story-driven, with puzzles and eerie exploration. I love how the controller makes movement feel precise, letting you focus on the haunting narrative. Next, Dunkadillo is just fun chaos. You play as an armadillo that turns into a basketball to bounce through levels. It's quirky and creative, and with a controller, the bouncing physics feel way more controllable and satisfying. At 45, Ninth Dawn Remake is a massive RPG loaded with dungeons, loot, and co-op. I like how huge the world feels for mobile. Controller support makes combat and exploration smoother, which is perfect for long sessions. Up next, Junkyard Rush Racing has that dusty southern daredevil vibe. Racing custom cars through countryside tracks feels wild and reckless in a good way. Controller steering gives you way better control at high speeds. Game 43 is Exoliper, and honestly, piloting a 10-meter exosuit never gets old. Stomping enemies and blasting through battles feels powerful. Using a controller really sells that mech pilot fantasy with smoother aiming and movement. Next, Townsfolk slows things down with strategy and management. Balancing food, gold, and disasters keeps you thinking ahead. I like how controller navigation makes menu management surprisingly comfortable. At number 41, Spilled is oddly relaxing. Cleaning oceans, rescuing animals, and upgrading your boat feels peaceful. It's not intense, but that's the point. Controller movement fits perfectly with the chill gameplay. Up next, Pathrider lets you smash through obstacles and carve your own route through the desert. It's arcade chaos, and I like how responsive steering feels with a controller, especially during destruction moments. Game 39 is Spooky Express, and this one's clever. Planning rail routes for undead passengers sounds silly, but the puzzles get surprisingly tricky. Controller controls make track placement smoother and less fiddly. Next, Fast Food Wars is pure arcade madness. Fighting invading junk food as a burger is hilarious, but the action's legit fun. I also respect the no ads full game approach. Controller aiming feels sharp and responsive. At 37, New Star GP mixes racing with team management across decades. I love how you handle both strategy and driving. With a controller, races feel precise while still keeping that retro arcade charm. Up next, Jenny LeClue is a narrative mystery packed with personality. Your choices shape the story, and I like how immersive it feels. Controller movement helps keep exploration smooth while you focus on the investigation. Game 35 is No Way Home, a twin-stick space shooter full of missions and loot. It's fast, dangerous, and rewarding. Controller aiming makes dogfights feel precise, which is essential when enemies swarm you. Next, Stella Sora mixes light action with team building in a fantasy world. I like assembling squads and tackling mysterious monoliths. With a controller, movement and combat feel more fluid and natural. At number 33, CarX Drift Racing 3 is a dream for drift fans. Building cars from scratch and competing online feels deep and rewarding. Controller steering gives you real control, which drifting absolutely demands. Up next, Cult of the Lamb is weird in the best way. Building a cult while dungeon crawling is such a strange mix, but it works. Controller combat feels tight, especially during boss fights. Game 31 is Spider Tanks, a 3 vs 3 multiplayer brawler where customization matters. I like experimenting with parts and builds. Controller aiming makes battles feel competitive instead of clumsy. Next, SILT is surreal and mysterious. Possessing sea creatures to solve puzzles is such a unique mechanic. Controller movement feels smooth, which really helps when navigating the dark underwater world. At 29, Two Strikes is all about precision. One clean hit can win or lose the duel. I love how tense fights feel, and with the controller, timing attacks feels incredibly satisfying. Up next, Max Speed delivers flashy tracks and stunt racing chaos. It's fast, colorful, and intense. Controller steering really helps during jumps and tight turns, making races feel skill-based. Game 27 is Bloomtown, a story-rich JRPG mixing monster taming and social elements. I like how charming the world looks while hiding darker secrets. Controller controls make exploration and battles feel smoother. At 26, Valiant Hearts continues its emotional World War story. It's less about action and more about characters and history. Controller navigation keeps gameplay comfortable while the story hits hard. Up next, we have Katana Dragon. Follows ninja heroes on a quest to break a curse. I like the dungeon exploration and fast combat. With a controller, swordplay feels responsive and satisfying. Game number 24 is Coffee Please Espresso. You'd think it's just a cafe sim, but man, Rush Hour turns it into pure chaos. Juggling orders while everything spirals out of control is hilarious. Controller inputs actually help you keep up when the madness hits. Up next, Blaze Blue Entropy Effect. Surprised me with how smooth its combat feels. The combo system evolves as you play, which keeps fights exciting. With a controller, chaining attacks feels natural, and honestly, it's hard to put down once you get in the flow. Game 22 is Methods, and it's perfect if you love brainy stories. Investigating crimes and interrogating suspects keeps you thinking constantly. I like how choices shape outcomes. Controller navigation makes clue hunting feel smoother than tapping endlessly. Next, Fergles is chaotic fun with up to 20 players racing through knockout rounds. It's colorful, fast, and unpredictable. Using a controller really helps with movement precision, especially when the maps start throwing traps everywhere. At number 20, Neon Spellstorm is pure neon chaos. You're racing along collapsing paths while casting crazy spell combos. I love experimenting with builds, and controller controls make dodging and casting feel super responsive. Up next, Shotgun King flips chess on its head. You've got only your king and a shotgun against an army of pieces. It's weird, strategic, and surprisingly addictive. Controller input makes selecting moves quick and satisfying. Game 18 is Delirium, and this one's for players who like unusual mechanics. It mixes retro shooter ideas with random events and unconventional controls. A controller helps tame the chaos and makes the experience feel more deliberate. Next, Westhold's Law throws you into fast shootouts where strategy matters. I like how you can throw weapons or use slow-mo powers when things get intense. Controller aiming keeps fights sharp and satisfying. At 16, Bluey's quest for the gold pin is pure charm. It's colorful, story-driven, and packed with puzzles and animated scenes. Controller movement feels smooth, which makes exploring its vibrant worlds even more enjoyable. Up next, Our Town Hero hits that nostalgic sweet spot. It looks like a Game Boy classic, but plays with modern polish. I love the seasonal world changes, and controller support makes exploration feel like a handheld console throwback. Game 14 is Dead Streets, and this one's all adrenaline. Waves of zombies flood the city, and quick reflexes are everything. Controller aiming really helps when things get overwhelming, which they definitely will. At 13, Halls of Torment is a bullet heaven roguelite packed with monsters and loot. I like how runs scale in intensity. Controller movement feels way more precise than touch, especially when dodging massive enemy waves. Next, Exit the Gungeon takes the chaos from its predecessor and turns it vertical. Escaping elevators full of enemies is frantic fun. Controller controls make dodging and shooting feel tight and reliable. Game 11 is Shin-Chan, and I love its laid-back charm. Exploring a town frozen in time and meeting quirky characters feels cozy. Controller movement fits perfectly with its relaxed pacing. We've hit the top 10, and Civilization 7 absolutely earns its spot. Building an empire from scratch on mobile is insane. Controller navigation makes managing cities and armies surprisingly comfortable for such a deep strategy game. At number 9, Arknights. Endfield blends action combat with a massive sci-fi world. I love how alive the setting feels. Controller combat makes battles smoother, especially during intense encounters. Next, Drive Rally brings back 90s rally vibes with style. Racing across different terrains with a co-driver feels authentic. Controller steering gives you real precision, which rally racing absolutely needs. Game 7 is Farlight 84, and it's chaos in the best way. Massive matches, hero abilities, and fast pacing keep you on edge. Controller aiming really helps when fights get hectic. Up next, Ark Ultimate Mobile Edition is huge. From jungles to sci-fi maps, there's always something new to explore or tame. Controller support makes survival, combat, and riding creatures feel way more immersive. At number 5, Sea of Stars is a love letter to classic RPGs. The turn-based combat and exploration feel nostalgic but modern. Controller inputs make battles smooth, which really enhances the experience. Next, PowerWash Simulator. Might sound simple, but it's ridiculously relaxing. Cleaning dirt with friends online is oddly satisfying. With a controller, spraying and aiming feels smooth and oddly therapeutic. Game number 3 is Destiny Rising, and this one blew me away. First and third person shooting, unique heroes, and big missions make it feel console level. Controller controls make combat feel precise and powerful. Runner-up spot goes to Hitman Absolution. Sneaking through missions or going loud is totally up to you. I love how every level rewards smart planning. With the controller, stealth movement and aiming feel incredibly smooth. And finally, number 1, Red Dead Redemption. This is the full console masterpiece on mobile, and it honestly still blows my mind. Exploring the Wild West as John Marston feels cinematic, emotional, and huge. With a controller, it plays exactly how it should, like a true AAA experience. And so we close another chapter of premium mobile gaming experiences. Thanks for staying till the end and being part of this community. Like and subscribe for more, all game links are in the pinned comment, and be sure to check our previous videos. See you very soon!